Hey everyone, awesome to be here. So listen, in the past, I've given presentations where I've talked about apocalypse in the real estate industry, what we learned from a receding tide, and I've compared real estate agents to cockroaches. I didn't get invited back to that one. But I think today, what I'm going to talk about today will be the best presentation you hear in real estate all year. Probably. Y'all remember Y2K? Yeah, right? Like, we're going to go from 1999 to 2000, and computers were going to stop working, planes were going to fall from the sky, everything was end of the world, right? Everything was going to stop working. It's pretty exciting. We've got our own Y2K in the industry coming up in a couple weeks, right? 6-2K, what's going to happen? It's the end of the world. Is real estate still going to work afterwards? Now, I'm not going to spend much time speculating on this or seeing what's going to happen. I think there's going to be other speakers today that'll cover that with much more authority than I can. But I want to use this as an example to talk about probability. So I want to introduce you to the Del Prete probability paradox. And this says the less likely something is to occur, the more attention it gets. Right? So everything we hear about, the lawsuits, AI and real estate, blockchain, if you remember that, tokenization of real estate, right? What's going to happen to buyer's agents and commissions? That's everything that anybody's talking about these days. It gets your attention. And why is that the only thing we're talking about? Because it's exciting, right? Those things are exciting. The more likely stuff doesn't get any attention. It's boring, right? You're not going to see newspapers with headlines like this. So what I want to talk about today is the likely stuff, the boring stuff, the probable. I'm going to dedicate my presentation to the boring. I truly hope that this is the most boring presentation you see all day, all week. All right? And the way we're going to do this is talking about data and evidence. All right? So we're going to talk about what's probably going to happen, what is happening, and thinking about that in terms of where we're going. So first off, consumers will probably continue to work with real estate agents, despite all the noise to the contrary, right? Let's look at the data. The percentage of consumers using agents to help sell their home is at an all-time high, 89% in 2023. It's stayed up there for quite a while. It's not changing. And if you think about what's happened this is over 40 years, by the way, and if you look at what's happened, this has been at the same time when new companies like Zillow, Redfin, Opendoor have come on the scene to try to change consumer behavior and change how consumers interact and buy and sell real estate. Maybe they're helping, maybe they're shifting, billions of dollars of venture capital in this space, all trying to change it. Yet, at the end of the day, the vast, vast majority of consumers are still choosing to use a real estate agent for the biggest transaction of their life. Let's look at the market. What's going on in the market? It's experiencing a bit of a rocky recovery. So, new listings are up. There's more inventory, right? The yellow line, that is this year. Compared to last year, there's more inventory, there are more new listings. It's still below what we've seen in the past, but it is increasing compared to last year. The percentage of active listings with price drops is also going up. It's going up out of season, and it's getting just about as high as we've seen in the past. And how does that translate to home sales? Well, they're down. This is data that I track based on the NAR data. Over the past, 12 years, home sales in June were the lowest they've ever been. And I'm a data guy. What I don't like about this graph is the angle down. It was going super flat, just kind of super boring for a while, and now it's down. So inventory, new listings, price drops, sales dropping. I think there's a bit of perhaps aspirational pricing out there when home sellers are listing their homes for sale, but I'm not sure. If we kind of transpose the first 6 months over the year, over the entire year, we'd be looking at 4.1 million existing home sales. It's low. Just about, it looks just like last year. However, this still represents about $90 billion in commissions. So yeah, we can freak out about home sales and all that, but there's still a very big pie powering this entire industry. Everybody here, everybody in the expo hall, everyone here is tapping into this. This is still a very big number and represents a really big opportunity. What else is going on? The real estate portals will continue to get deeper into the transaction. Now, what I mean by that is getting closer to the transaction, right? Portals getting closer and closer to the real estate transaction, but also getting involved in more aspects of it. And you don't have to look any further than Zillow to see that at play. You see the products that businesses launched over the past couple of years. They are expanding closer to the transaction, and they are getting involved in more parts of the transaction. It's a growth strategy. It's a smart growth strategy to continue growing and playing a pivotal role at the center of the industry. Now, as one example, we can look at Zillow Home Loans, right? That is a good example of getting closer to the transaction. If you want to think about the incredible power that portals have in front of hundreds of millions of consumer eyeballs, just think about this. When you fill out a form on Zillow, in the market where the mortgages are active, there's that box. I want information on Zillow Home Loans. Pre-checked, by the way, pre-checked. Generating lots of leads. Zillow, as a business, has doubled their mortgage headcount in the past year. MLOs, mortgage loan officers or originators, doubled in the past year. I don't know about you, I don't know many mortgage businesses that have doubled their headcount in the past year in this market, this environment. And compared to its peers, if you compare it to, say, Redfin or some of the other real estate tech disruptors, Zillow's bucking the trend, right? Look at that. They're going up, 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 while everybody else is cutting and going down. So there's definitely something in the water there in terms of that investment, getting closer to the transaction, doing more and more. And Zillow was also tightly managing those leads and those connections. So this is a chart from the business, right? Not only do their Premier Agent and Flex teams need to deliver on turning leads into sales, they also need to send consumers back to Zillow Home Loans when the time is right if they expressed interest in that. And if they don't, eligible for disengagement, which is a phrase I love and reminds me of something I'd hear from this guy right before the end. All right, what else is going on? The disruptors have been willing to lose a lot of money over the years. If I've been on stage, I've talked about that. But what's happening now is they're adjusting to the changing market. So Opendoor is one classic disruptors, lost $3.2 billion over the past 7 years. In 2023 alone, all of these publicly listed real estate companies have lost a total of $1.1 billion. So businesses are losing a lot of money, but they're adjusting to the changing market. So back to Opendoor, what are they doing? They're rationalizing the business, right? They've brought down the number of purchases they're doing so they can get the core operation right. But they're really slowing down, focusing on that core part of the business. Seeing levels here just as low as we've seen kind of in the early days in the recovery period of the pandemic. Compass, kind of the quintessential loss maker in the brokerage space, cut its operating expenses 40%, or $600 million on an annual basis. That's absolutely massive, right? So when, this is business 101. When revenue goes down, declining revenues, what do? You have to cut your expenses. And in Compass's case, this has led to, kind of for the first time ever, free cash flow. It's something, I'm still playing around with the term here, but calling profitability the lost art of making more money than you spend, right? Everybody's kind of going back to black and saying, oh, these are the fundamentals we need to adhere to. There's no longer an environment of free money, spend whatever we want, grow market share. Things have changed. And while things are changing, standing still is not an option. So when I teach my university class at CU Boulder, I always show this chart. I love this chart. Back in 2017, here are the top brokerages, right? The big classic incumbents anywhere, known as Realogy at the time, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services of America, over 10 times higher in terms of transaction volumes than these little upstarts called EXP, Compass, and Redfin. I was probably first on stage in 2018. I might have had a chart like this. I might not have because nobody was paying attention to these small businesses. But watch what happens. Like, this industry changes so fast. Boom, right? The big incumbents didn't do anything. They kind of stood still, right? But these startups, these disruptors in this space, EXP overtook them as the largest brokerage by 2021, a couple of years ago. And now we have a radically changed industry where there's a new number one. There's not many industries where this happens, where the incumbents who've been massive in size compared to any disruptors, have been completely overtaken by startup companies that didn't even register on your radar a couple years ago. So there's massive changes going on. Now, a lot of these changes are powered by agents, right? Real estate agents buy and sell houses. If you kind of follow the story and you remember the percentage of consumers using agents. So the shift of agents in the industry is very important. Here's some new research I'm going to talk about. This will go out on my mailing list tomorrow, but you get the first peek. So with my friends at Corded, we looked at data for 1.4 million agents over the past 12 months, and we're looking at churn. How many agents change a brokerage every year? So I want you to think about it. Don't say it out loud, but just think about it. Not new agents to the industry and not agents leaving, but just agents that are changing their brokerage in a year. What percentage? Just think about a percentage in your mind. I heard 20, and I've heard 30 in the past, which is, I said don't say it, but all right. It's fine. The number is 10%. Yeah. But keep in mind, this is not new to the industry, and this is not exiting the industry. All right? 10% of agents in the past 12 months, by the way, that's 144,000 agents. That's a lot. 10% of agents changed their brokerage. And this is that broken out by an agent's production band. Interesting. What I think is fascinating, and what I would call your attention to, is that last bar. Imagine being in a business where every year somebody came in and said, hey, 10% of your best, most productive employees are going to leave. Every year. 10% of your best, most productive employees are going to leave. That's the challenge and the opportunity in this industry. Where are the agents going? By and large, they're just going to newer brokerages. So looking at another analysis I did looking at the data, these newer brokerages with a median age of about 10 to 12 years old are all growing their agent count. The older brokerages, 40, 50 years old, are losing agents. Agents, like many other people, like new things. They want to go to the new shiny object. It just so happens that those new shiny objects typically offer agents more money, or at least a higher percentage of their commission. Right? Agents like the promise of being able to earn more money. And those are the exact same brokerages that are growing. Those low-fee, cloud-based brokerages also have a cost advantage. Anywhere's operating expense per transaction is 7 times higher than EXP's. 7 times. It's a huge cost advantage, which lets companies like EXP and the other low-fee models send more of that revenue back to their agents. And again, that attracts agents, and they get more agents and more revenue. It's this flywheel effect, right? It's also a great cost advantage for the brokerage business model. Those same brokerages that are attracting agents are also the most profitable, or the least unprofitable for last year. Now, last year I was on stage, and I talked about something called the last mile problem. And that's a concept from logistics. If you think about ordering a package online, right, getting it delivered to your home is usually the hardest, most expensive, most uncertain part of that transaction. Real estate also has a last mile problem. You can generate, millions of online leads. You can put them into a tech platform that you spent $1 billion building. You can use AI and predictive analytics to score those leads based on who's most likely to buy and sell in the next 3 months. But you still need to give that lead to an agent. You cannot disintermediate the agent. You still need to get a human being to pick up the phone and call that lead. Hi, Mr. Del Prete, are you interested in selling your home? Right? There needs to be a relationship there. So more interesting research. I've done some secret shopping over the past couple months. Secret shopping is generally when you pretend to be a customer, go into a restaurant or call a company and see what that experience is like and report on it. It's done in a very scientific way. Think about like drug testing, right? They're not just if they want to try out a new prescription or drug, they don't just give it to people and be like, how do you feel? It goes through a very regimented process. So you can get apples to apples comparison. And in this, I'm working with a team who's done this for the past decade in the mortgage space. So we and they know what they're doing. So we've done over 100 secret shops around the United States. 2 kinds. One, where we would do an online secret shop. So find a property online, fill out a form, not on Zillow, but on the local agent and brokerage websites, right? Those same websites that you're collectively spending millions, tens of millions of dollars building, right? So going through those websites, and then also open homes. So actual people going into open homes and seeing what happens. Over 100 of these, about 30 different brokerages. You want to know the results? For the online, 35% of requests were never, ever responded to. 47% of those requests were never responded to by a human being. And the average time for response was a bit over 8 hours. Now, and again, we're smart about this. These outreach happens in the meaty part of the day. We're not doing it at night. We're not doing it on weekends. Kind of think, middle of the day, right? For everybody. Again, this is scientific. For the open homes, sending people into open homes, and again, we're smart about this. It's not, somebody dressed up poorly and kind of misrepresenting themselves. Like, we want to be good shoppers. I did an open home myself. So if you see me coming into one of your open homes, run, jump out a window. 42% of the time, agents never asked a shopper for their contact information. Now, in a period of time when everybody's worried about justifying their commission, what if I showed this to the homeowner that the agent was representing? What if I showed it to the homeowner? That would, in effect, be like the agent saying to the homeowner, who they're paying to sell their home, 42% of the time, I'm not going to do my job. And then this, plus the fact that when the contact information was given, still there wasn't a follow-up. At the end of the day, 62% of shoppers had no follow-up. Just think about that. Like, people going to the trouble of driving to a property, going in, touring, looking around, asking questions. 62% of the time, they had no follow-up. One of my favorite parts of the internet is like below the fold on pages, right? I'm really interested in that clickbait stuff. I'm super fascinated by German hearing aid technology and what doctors are begging me to stop eating, and one weird trick to get rid of wrinkles on your skin. Here's one weird trick to grow your business, 62%. Follow up with people. Thank you for the delayed laughter. Here's some logos of the brokerages we secret shopped. So, quite extensive. And I think the commonality, the one thing that I come to at the end of the day, the one commonality with all these secret shops, and by the way, we would do each brokerage at least 2, maybe 3 times, is that the experience was consistently inconsistent. We'd call up, an agent at one brokerage, have a great experience. Call up another agent at the same brokerage, completely different experience. And this is the last mile opportunity, right? There's such a huge ability here to move the needle. So I'll offer some advice. I'm thinking of kind of putting this into a program, and I'm going to walk you through it now, so feel free to get your phones or kind of write down some stuff. 3 steps, all right? The first, if someone calls, call them back. You still with me? All right. Number 2, if somebody texts or emails you, write them back. And third, build a meaningful relationship. I don't know about you, but I don't wake up in the morning, look in a mirror, and say, like, I'm a lead. But the reason we're talking about this last mile opportunity, right? It is the most likely thing to move the needle if you want to move the needle on your business, agent, brokerage, real estate tech company, otherwise. It's not super exciting, right? But it's the stuff that'll move the needle. It's boring. How many people are going to this session later today? Right? Nobody's going to, this is super boring, but that would be my advice. Get boring. Get boring. It might not be exciting, and you might not be able to think about this sci-fi future where AI robots are helping people answer their questions and doing all this in real time, but this is real, all right? So I'm going to give you some advice. I have 2 teenage daughters who I love very much. I'm going to give you the same advice I give them. There's things in life you can control, and there's things in life you can't control. So what can you not control? You can't control the lawsuits. You can't control what your competitors do. You cannot control what happens with interest rates. And you can't control AI replacing agents. What can you control? You can follow up, you can call people, you can do a great job, and you can build meaningful relationships. So my advice to you is focus on what you can control, the boring stuff, and you'll be successful. Probably. Thanks, everyone.